Welcome inside the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave. I'm Justin Rose, joined today by a couple of newsies, Detroit news writers, Lions writers this weekend, Rod Beard and Josh Katzenstein. Guys, the Lions draft, I have to say, impressed. Not overly impressed, not, smorgasbord of excitement, but I think you said it earlier with the vegetable analogy. Give us that one again.
Yeah, it's the plate of veggies. It's not what you want. It's not a big sizzling steak, but it's the veggies that are healthy for you, and it's what you need to make your team a little bit better.
Not sexy, but practical.
Yeah,
Right.
but at the same time, there's a little meat and potatoes in there because you're getting after that running game. I mean, the Lions ranked 28th in the rushing attack last year. They had a big-bodied guard. They had a shifty running back in Amir Abdullah. Someone was asking earlier, this guy might be a third down back. This guy can play all three downs if you need him to, but the Lions don't right away. Maybe down the road, he can be a guy they lean on, but for now, he'll give you some return action. He'll give you some stuff out of the backfield, and he's small, but he can go between the tackles. So I think the Lions, addressed a big need on their offense.
Really like what they did in the first two rounds going offense with the guards, in the trade to get Manny back in town anyways. Couple extra picks that they could use, trade away, and some leverage stuff there. But I like what they did in the third and fourth round. Alex Carter, a big, not shutdown corner, if you will, but a big physical guy who's going to help add depth to that defensive backfield that's aging as we speak. And Gabe Wright, a guy who played for Auburn, a team that won the national championship 2 years ago. Guy who has experience playing against big uglies that, I think two complementary defensive pieces, no?
Right, with Rashean Mathis getting older as we speak, you've got to replenish that supply of cornerbacks that you've got there. And Gabe Wright, when you lose Nick Fairley and you lose Ndamukong Suh, you've got to add some more pieces to that defensive tackle puzzle. So I think they address those needs. And these aren't names that we've heard. These aren't Florida State guys or Alabama guys or big-time guys. And I think that's why it's the vegetable analogy, because they're not sexy guys. They're not names that you are at the top of anybody's draft board or that we remember from the bowl games. These are just guys that are complementary pieces that are just going to fill in.
And I think talking a lot about the 2011 draft this offseason, because after the Lions lost Nick Fairley, they were left with nothing from that draft that included Michael LaShore, Titus Young. I think a lot of people wanted to see them go with high-character guys. And, I mean, the fact is, yeah, you might, be willing to take a risk on a little better player, but I think the Lions want to be able to trust the players they bring in and be able to rely on them to show up and be there for every meeting, every practice, every game, because, I mean, even last year, they suspend C.J. Mosley for a game. They effectively suspended Joique Bell and Brandon Pettigrew a quarter each, for off-field infractions. They don't want to have to deal with that. They want these guys that are going to, do everything that they ask, and even though they might not be, the biggest stars available, I think you should trust that they'll be available to you every Sunday.
A big question mark. I even have a ton of question marks written on my paper when it comes to round 5, because we are talking about the Lions trying to up their running game, and I think they did a very good job of addressing some needs to be able to make that happen. But Michael Burton, the fullback from Rutgers, is taken in the 5th round. Now, 5th-round guys aren't, you're going to find the Tom Brady every now and then. Michael Burton is probably not going to have a Super Bowl, impact the way that a diamond in the rough like a Brady or a wide receiver or maybe a cornerback that,
But
it's an interesting pick.
I think it addresses the best player available mantra to say that we're not going there. We're going for a specific need. We want to be a better running team and be able to do what other teams do. 28th in the league in rushing is just not going to cut it. And you mitigate some of that risk with Matthew Stafford having to drop back 40 times a game and toss the ball around, where you're going to have turnovers, you're going to have some mistakes and other things like that. When you need to run out a clock, you need to be able to run the ball effectively. They drafted the interior line there. They got a good running back. They got some flexibility with Manny Ramirez. I think they went down and they checked off, this is the type of team that we want to be, and we're going to include these pieces that are going to help us get there.
But at the same time, I don't know that you can say that just because he's a fullback, that doesn't mean he wasn't the best player available there in the 5th round.
He was a fullback, though.
Yeah, but Jalston Fowler, the fullback from Alabama, he goes in the 4th round. That might have been a guy the Lions were targeting. Sure. And then they see that, okay, teams do still value this position. So we want, if we have a guy that we want, we got to get him. And you have to look at the draft and realize that most of these day 3 guys, they might not offer you anything. So if you can bring in a guy who's going to immediately contribute on special teams, maybe give you 15, 20 snaps a game on offense, I mean, that seems like a pretty savvy move.
Absolutely. I mean, I do see I just think 5th round, you might take more of a risk on something else. But again, 28th in the league, The running game was addressed in a big way. Even Corey Robinson, a tackle in the 7th round, may or may not add to the depth. More depth there.
But a big body, just certainly a big body that you can look at and say, hey, we'll plug him in. Maybe he fits what we're trying to do, but if he doesn't, 7th round pick. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, and I mean, the guy played, 3 years at left tackle in the SEC. So, I mean, even though he might not add anything as a rookie, maybe he can develop into an option.
Real quick, just want to get your overall grades. If you had to grade the student, which is Mayhew and the Lions, on Jim Schwartz's first draft, you would give him a?
I would say this is a solid B. Just a really solid B, that you did everything that you needed to do. You probably didn't get a guy that's going to be burn the road up and just do everything that beyond what you expect to do. But I think you got a lot of solid picks here to address a lot of your needs.
I'll withhold a full grade for a couple years just because you never know, what these players are going to do once they get that paycheck and have to perform on Sundays. But I'll give the thought process a B+ because the Lions, they did consider need, even if it was, the best player available thought process as well. But, they looked for high character guys. They looked for guys that fit their system and fit their scheme. And I think they also found a bunch of leaders, which, it seems like Jim Caldwell is really targeting.
And that B's for broccoli, by the way.
B's for broccoli. I'm going to give him a C+. Only out of the mindset that you want to have that one picked where you're like, this is the guy. You don't want to miss on a guy. Now, I do think that I agree with both of you where you say, these are guys that you build a team around guys that are going to be here for 4 or 5 years, sign those long contracts, and be stable, but they're not going to be maybe headliners in the newspaper. I don't necessarily know if Abdullah was the right pick at running back. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just simply saying you didn't have that one name when I look at this list and go, hey, at least they got blank. Because you're not going to go, at least they got Laken Tomlinson. Or at least they got Gabe Wright.
But here's the thing, though. It's like when you're going car shopping and you look for the Mustang and you look at the Mustang and you look at the price tag on it and everything that can go wrong, and then you just roll over and say, let me get the Ford Flex, or let me get something that's a little bit more practical in what I'm looking for. Ford shout-outs there. But it is the things that you need. You can have all of these extras, but here's what I need, and I think they address their needs well.
I'm not hopping in that Ford Flex with you.
Neither am I. All right, that's all for us up here in the Suburban Ford 7 Sports Game. David.